Okay, welcome back. I'm Dr. Michael Reiner and your host of the Independent Doctors of Pahrump. And tonight we are, there won't be the little recorded thing. This is the live show. Call-in line 727-8750. I'm back from a week's vacation and glad to be back. Can't say I'm rested, but that is the way it is. I'm sure we'll have some callers in. Hopefully Ray will call in. He's always good about watching the show and waiting to see if it's a live show or not, and then calling in with the questions, and I appreciate that. We have I had a special request from a patient today in the office to talk about an aspect of diabetes related to the ocular or ophthalmopathy effects of diabetes and how it affects the eye. And so we're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes, but we, as predicted, have Ray on the phone. Ray, hello.
Hi, as predicted, huh?
Well, I really enjoy you calling. I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you call in. You have interesting topics, and I know that you don't intentionally try to stump me, but I find that the topics are very thought-provoking, so I appreciate you calling.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. You know, I've been thinking today, I'm saying so many things are reversed as far as what's good for you and what's not. For a while, eggs were bad for you. Now eggs may be good for you. Coffee was bad. Tea was bad. They may be good for you. Walking was not really good. You had to jog or you had to run and get your heartbeat up to a certain point. What is the status right now, like on coffee and tea, and especially about the walking? Will walking alone as exercise be okay, or do you have to jog or get your heart pumping faster? If you could answer those, and maybe I'll call in later, but I'm really curious about this. And thanks for coming back. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, always thank you for that appreciative thing. And this is true. I mean, things always wax and wane, and I guess it depends on who you listen to at the time, but certainly you're right. Eggs, back in the 80s, when Reagan had a heart attack, the cholesterol was the big buzz, and everybody said stay away from eggs, and everything went, low fat, which has always been bad for you. Fat's always been bad, and then they just whip up a bunch of carbs, and we start to track the weight gain through the 70s, and we start to see everybody gaining weight. And it's because of our sedentary lifestyle. We've actually taken our manufacturing overseas, and doing so, people become more sedentary and are not as active during the day. And that's why we see so much weight gain, because remember what I've said numerous times, and I'll say it again, when you eat, you make insulin, and insulin builds whatever you tell it to build. So if you eat and sit, you're going to build fat. If you eat and exercise, you won't build fat, or at least as much fat, but you may actually, depending on how hard you work out or what you do, you may actually build muscle. So that leads me into your idea of walking. The American Diabetic Association came out with lifestyle as its primary treatment for diabetes, and that is the recommendation is that you walk in a purposeful manner 30 minutes 5 days a week. Now you can break that up into 10-minute segments, but it should be purposeful, and what that means is you don't walk from here to the corner and that takes 1 minute, and you talk with your buddy, and then you decide to get another minute in and another minute in. It's actually 10 minutes of continuous walking at whatever pace that you can do. Now, if you were trying to simulate someone running, I mean, what they said was that you could run 30 minutes 3 times a week. And I heard this on a thing. It was just whenever I get the urge to run, I have to sit down and remind myself that until the urge passes. Meaning, jogging is not necessarily, especially in this community, not the best thing for you. It has nothing to do with the weather. It has to do with the facilities that are available to jog with. And it's horrible on your knees. It's horrible on your back. People slump over, and there are very few people that are really equipped to to run long distances and do it efficiently. And most of the people are just not capable of doing that. You can simulate the same exercise by walking about 31 miles, I believe, a week. We'll simulate running for 30 minutes 3 times a week. So you can get that exercise, and it is much better for you to do it that way. And I suggest that you do it after you eat, because when you do it after you eat, you basically are taking the nutrients that your body is going to put into fat and it's going to burn it in muscle, meaning once it's burned in muscle, those carbohydrate or those sugar molecules are gone to carbon dioxide and water. They can't be stored in your fat stores, so therefore you can't add to your current amount of fat if you're burning those calories after you eat. How long? 15, 20 minutes. Give yourself a chance to get your food into your system. Yes, it pulls the nutrients away from your splanchnic bed, which is your the capillary bed that gets the food from your gut, and that's why I say a lot of people say that, oh, well, I feel sleepy after I eat. It's because you basically are pulling all your blood down into your intestinal tract to pull that away. Well, you have to fight that off, and you fight that off by getting up and doing a little bit of activity. And then what happens is you've got this good blood flow going, and the nutrients are being absorbed, they are being worked off, and you have less deposition of those calories into your fat stores. And it's just there is an imaginary line in the sand where you cross over into this insulin resistance pattern where your obesity becomes greater than what your body can handle, and then your sugars start to rise. And the body tries to compensate for that by making more insulin. And the more insulin that it makes, guess what? And if you're still sedentary, the more fat you're going to make. So this is where you get this very vicious accumulation of fat. So it's not necessarily calories in, calories out. It's what you do with those calories and how you absorb them. So yes, if you're having a high glucose meal, then you are going to gain, it's very hard on your system. With that being said, it's also important to realize that what exercise does for you. It upregulates your insulin receptors. So by exercising, you actually make your body more efficient in clearing that sugar from your system, and you actually lower your blood sugar on another level with that. So that's basically anything. And Ray, keep in mind, it really is about moderation. Moderation is the key. I think if you have too much of anything at one particular time, it is going to be bad for you. If you were to eat nothing but eggs, may not be the best thing for you. But if you eat too many carbohydrates, not the best thing for you. You drink too much, not the best thing for you. You smoke too much. I don't think smoking is good for anybody under any circumstance. So all those things are definitely not good for you. So we have to have a balance in our life as far as just about everything we do. And that's true with even psychosocial. I mean, balance with family, rest. Just everything you do has to be balanced. And when you shift, it's a good time to take that inventory and look at what you're doing. How much time are you spending at work? How much time are you sleeping? How much time are you eating? How much time are you spending with your family? How much time are you spending laughing, watching, maybe a little TV, entertainment? It all has to be, this balance in life. All work and no play makes Jack a bad boy. But anyway, we're getting back to, I hope that answers your question. And if it didn't, I guess you can call back and bring that up, and then we can discuss that again. But leading into the diabetes and the exercise and the lifestyle, a patient was curious about how diabetes affects the eyes and what do we look for and what do we do and why diabetes is so important. It's just one of the organs. The eyes are actually one of the organs that can be affected very intensely by diabetes, and it can affect it on a lot of different levels. One of the things that people will notice is sometimes when their sugar will change, or they'll eat, they may get a blurry or a glassy vision. Well, that could be due to a low blood sugar. The retina in the back of the eye is actually a very sensitive organ, and so if your blood sugars drop, it may have an adjustment period in that. too high of sugars for too long a period of time will deposit what we call sorbitol. Sorbitol is a type of complex byproduct of elevated sugars, and that can be deposited in the lens. And when that happens, the lens becomes less pliable. So therefore, your vision, near vision, is going to be affected more because your lens has to be able to bend and go through this muscular thing. That's why when you turn age 40, you start to have problems with near vision because your lens is not as pliable as it once is. So you have to use cheaters, like these, to help you see close up. And that's a natural phenomenon of our lens getting that. So it doesn't affect what we call the anterior chamber of the eye, which is from the colored portion forward. That is a totally different phenomenon, but it does affect everything in the back. Now, the most insensitive thing that the diabetes does, when your sugars become elevated, it causes what we call microvascular or neovascularization. And what that means is if you were to look at the eye under a microscope, which they do, you can actually see little bitty tufts of blood vessels rising up off of the retina into space, so to say. So, and these neovascularizations are new blood vessels, certainly in more insulin-dependent diabetes, become prone to bleeding. And when they bleed, they will cause what they call a vitreous bleed. And vitreous is this gelatinous material that is in the back of the eye behind the lens. And when I come back from the break, I'm going to talk a little bit more about bleeding behind the eye. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Reiner, your host of the Independent Doctors of Pahrump, a TV show that airs Monday night on Channel 46. I want to remind you that I am a practicing physician in Pahrump, and I'm an independent practitioner, which means I am not bought by any insurance company or corporate medicine. We provide the highest level of care. We have nurse practitioners. We have other physicians, specialists who come to our office. Please come visit me. I'm at 1316 East Calvada here in the heart of Pahrump. Thank you.